Well, we come now to our third Tri Talk for this morning, and this time around it goes back to the crux of the matter that we're here for. As we try to get more women involved in understanding technology, as we try to address social inclusion and using technology as a tool, what does it mean for the world of work and the future of labor going forward? Now, that's been a question that's been brought to the fore, especially during these times of COVID-19, where we've seen ongoing job cuts take place, individuals perhaps being rendered redundant due to the fact that their work can be done through using different technological tools. And in a country like South Africa, where we have such rates of unemployment and inequality, it's even more so that we need to ensure that we understand what the future world of work looks like. And as we implement artificial intelligence and digital tools into this realm, that there is a sense of cohesiveness to ensure that individuals are still not left behind. To give us some insight into this challenging but very pertinent conversation, we're joined now by Professor Mthunzi Mdwaba. He joins us as a leader and representative of the International Organization of Employers, and Vice President of the International Labour Organization, also referred to as the ILO. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Mthunzi Mdwaba joins me in studio. Good to have you, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, Gugu.
Looking forward to this conversation. Difficult one, especially given the times we live in South Africa.
Well, we have opportunities. You know, we've dwelt on the difficult side. There's nothing we can do about the difficult side. We didn't plan for things to happen, but we can plan for how to improve and learn from it.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks a lot. Well, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a pleasure to be here. I don't like standing on podiums, and even when they're made out of glass, because you'll notice I'm the same height as the podium, so I tend to want to move when I speak. I have 20 slides, and the intention really of having these slides is to make sure that at your own time you can be able to go in and have a look, do whatever you like, ask questions later, contact me via all the different social media platforms. But I've put on as a prompt for me to be able not to forget the points that I need to make. I will go quite fast. I'll do some introductory slides. There are slides in the middle that I will dwell on a little bit. And from slide 14 up to slide 20, I'll go a little bit more detailed, because that's important for you to get the message in terms of what I think are the suggestions, the recommendations, and how we can be able to leverage and make a difference in terms of all the challenges that we have and what we've learned. The poll is important. I think it's important for you to have a look at the poll as I'm speaking. Check that, do you think the 5 mega trends, technological advances, changing demographics, climate change, globalization, shortage of skilled labor, are collectively, positively or negatively impacting sustainability of economies? Please have a look at that, and let's have a look at what your thoughts are. Now, back to the presentation itself. You'll see that I represent an organization called the International Organization of Employers, a powerful and balanced voice for business. We have over 150 members, to be precise, 159 members throughout the world, in 150 countries. Earlier on, I saw Martin Kingston addressing you as one of the vice presidents for BUSA. Martin Kingston, or rather BUSA, not Martin Kingston, is one of our members, one of the 159 in the 150 countries that I represent. Through that representation, we have over 50 million companies that we speak for all over the world. When there's no COVID, I travel about 30 countries, speaking, having conversations, chatting to leaders of governments, of trade unions, of business, and so on. You'll see that in terms of our organization, during the COVID, interestingly, we grew the most. We were a very active player that was able to adapt and adjust very quickly. You'll see Antonio Guterres in one of the pictures, if some of you, the Secretary General of the United Nations. Those are our partners in the United Nations, the G20, the G7, UNICEF, and all kinds of partners. Now, in the poll question that I asked, you would have seen these megatrends. I've already mentioned the megatrends. There was a survey that was done by the ILO and the IOE, and these megatrends came out. But one of the most important that we need to talk about, and that which is one of the ones that affect South Africa, is the shortage of skilled labor. How are these future of work megatrends changing the landscape of the private sector? COVID-19 has exposed structural issues, but it's very important to underscore that the structural issues are pre-existing issues. These are flaws that were there before the COVID. We shouldn't use the COVID as an excuse. They were there. What the COVID has done is to expose the inadequacies of the structural formations that we have throughout the world. South Africa, no exception, probably affected a little bit more than most. The social issues, low economic growth, informality. Informality in South Africa, in Latin America, and parts of Asia constitutes about 65% of our economies. And if you think informality is only being in a shack or a spaza, as we call them in South Africa, think again, because we also have Uber drivers being informal now. During the COVID, they could not have any interventions of a business continuity nature. Why? Because they are not recognized. They are not registered. That's informality. Unemployment, especially for youth. Governance gaps, gender gaps, poverty, low social protection coverage. Big problem, and this is part of the reasons why you need to find a solution to issues like an Uber. Because how do you justify that over 15 million driver partners all over the world did not have any interventions and therefore no social protection? And if you multiply that by a very modest number of 3, it means over 45 million companies, rather families, were affected. Unsustainable rural-urban migration. Social issues continuing. If some of you follow these different surveys that we get and the indices in the world, for example, some people will probably know the index on the ease of doing business. Now, ease of doing business, South Africa is number 84 out of 190. I am told that our president of the country would like to see us at 50 by sometime next year out of 190. But if you look at the IMD Global Competitiveness Index, which is the Institute for Management Development based in Lausanne in Switzerland, you would see that South Africa is number 59 out of 63 countries. Last year, we were 56. We've swapped places with Brazil. Below us, we've got Venezuela, Mongolia, and one other country I cannot recall. Now, that is pitiful. Why do we have problems like this? Because when you have an index like this and you share it, unfortunately, nobody does anything about it. You have people operating in silos. Productivity issues sit in the Department of Employment and Labor. It is an entity of the Department of Employment and Labor, but is an entity that is meant to create jobs, that is meant to save jobs, that is meant to enhance competitiveness. But you'll see that it becomes an issue where only one department has to do this, when it should be a government-wide kind of collaborative process for us to make sure that productivity is embraced by everybody. We recommend that productivity, as Productivity SA, which I chair, by the way, maybe it's good to mention, that in October, like now, which is Productivity Month, we have the president leading all our activities for productivity. At the moment, he doesn't. At the moment, I don't think he pays even enough attention to it, quite frankly. He tweets quite a lot. I tweet him back quite a lot to say, Mr. President, lead from the front. Be a productivity ambassador. That's critical to teach everybody to do the right thing. Post-COVID strategic interventions, we've come up with a few. If you go to the website of Productivity SA, you'll be able to see what those are. Support business leaders in the private sector by promoting productivity movement, economic transformation, and job creation. In terms of the response, initially, South Africa responded, I think, quite well to the health aspects. Somewhere in the middle, we lost the plot a little bit. But when we get to the economic response, we've had nothing less than disastrous. We still do not have a response, quite frankly. Everybody talks about a response, typically to how South Africa operates. We talk a good talk, rhetoric in abundance, but nothing to do with the implementation side. We've been given $4.3 billion by the IMF, which, in my view, will be wasted without proper direction and without understanding how to respond to the economic ills of our country. We must do things differently. And how do we recommend? Recognize that without productivity enhancement and policy interventions, the economy cannot recover and grow. The importance of understanding the difference between leadership and those in positions of authority. This is a big one for me. We have a lot of people in positions of authority because they find themselves there. But they confuse themselves into thinking that they are leaders. But we, the population, confuse ourselves as well by thinking these are leaders. But leaders are people who know what they know and who know what they don't know. If you're a leader, you'll know I don't know. And you'll surround yourself with people who know and people who care. The importance of political will is important. So I put in a slide here on the 2019 International Labour Centenary Declaration on the Future of Work, because in Geneva, when we celebrated 100 years of the ILO, until 2019, there had never been any mention of productivity in any official instrument of the United Nations in the world. Now, the ILO represents 187 countries. I liaise with those 187 countries. Without anything like that giving us the formality and the official nature of it, we had a problem. But now, out of that document, we're able to get it 11 times. The important role of sustainable enterprises as generators of employment and promoters of innovation, enabling environment for entrepreneurship and sustainable enterprises, diverse forms of work arrangements. It's all in the Centenary Declaration, which you can also have a look at yourself on the ILO website. I've also put other 3 important guiding documents: the 2019 ILO Abidjan Declaration, which was in December last year, the 2030 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Now, a lot of people have heard of the SDGs, but don't actually understand how it works. Now, the important one for employment issues is SDG 8. It's called decent work and economic activity. But all SDGs work together in a connected way. So you can't work on one and leave the others. But every entity has a responsibility for 1 or 2. If you are working, for example, on 8, which is our economic activity one, you can't leave 1. 1 talks about no poverty. You can't leave 2, which is zero hunger. And 17 says all the SDGs must talk to each other. The next one is the 2063 African Union agenda. All 3 of them are interconnected. Skills challenges faced by employers all over the world. Now, in the survey that we did, over 500 companies were spoken to. They confirmed all of this. There's technological advances, the employment employer organizations in the regions, the challenges of locating, hiring, retaining skilled workers is felt across borders, sectors, and pay grades. The concern is becoming harder to recruit people with the skills needed. Soft skills are also not addressed by education systems as per a Deloitte survey that came out now in September. Issues of emotional intelligence, issues of global mindset, issues of critical thinking, problem solving. These are areas that robotics will never take away from you. No artificial intelligence is ever going to change the fact that if you have those skills, you'll always be employed. You'll always be able to move between different platforms. Those are skills that appeared in Business Tech South Africa that apparently South Africa is in short supply for. Now, slide 14, very important. Policy recommendations on skills governance. Find ways to embed human and social skills in the different learning pathways. Strengthen the capacities of career counselors. Support tripartite consultations. Provide an enabling environment. Promote sound labor market systems. Build a culture of lifelong learning from a young age. And in terms of those policy recommendations, expand cooperation between the education system and the private sector. Address human and social skills in the national agenda. Very, very critical. You can't talk about human capital development and having a human-centered approach, but without addressing that part. And ensuring that governments at the central and state levels should make human and social skills as part of the education curriculum. Review of TVET colleges and apprenticeship systems. Understand the problems of establishing a common skills recognition framework and invest in STEM and digital skills. Now, lessons learned from COVID-19 all over the world, those are the ones. Implement a do-it culture. Who adapts technology faster will do well. Digitalization becomes necessary and digital literacy education is essential. People have to learn when they need to, create a culture of trust. And South Africa can position itself by, as I've said already, pushing productivity, pushing skills development, reskilling, upskilling, tackling informality. Learning to learn is another very important skill. You've got to learn to learn. Other people don't understand that you must unlearn all the traditional rubbish that you've known in the past to be able to learn the new things that will make you adapt. South Africa is one of the largest ICT markets in Africa by value. We have huge technological leadership, but we're not leveraging it. South Africa is a regional hub, very big concentration of companies that make the decisions in the world of ICT. Tech and education is just to show you what the University of the Western Cape provides in the area of digital. And there are 10 recommendations to harness the future of work opportunities, which I'll do in 30 seconds. So we go to the poll. Creating a conducive, open and attractive IT culture, determining how to balance human and machine, treating workers as customers, understanding that taking small steps is better than none, understanding the importance of attracting a diverse workforce, finding ways to cultivate loyal and engaged employees, understanding that the workforce is more agile than employers think. Don't just set up training programs, create a learning culture. Learn to learn. Being open to adopt environmentally sustainable processes, and last, the importance of regular engagements with national employment organizations. That is my 12 minutes. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you appreciated that. And so there's the poll. So do you think the 5 mega trends, Gugu, they're speaking to us? So it seems still moving.
Sure.
Are collectively positively or negatively impacting sustainability of economies, positively impacting 27%. Okay, I think that's a sign of a depressed nation. And negatively impacting economies is 72%. I think we're very depressed South Africans. I don't agree with this, by the way.
You don't?
No, I disagree.
Tell me why.
There's lots of opportunities that come via technology. You know, the fact that my mother, who's
Yes.
81 years old, is able to send me very funny messages, even talk I don't understand, on a phone. The fact that people now, when they have a problem, they go to Twitter, they go to LinkedIn, social media platforms, they complain. I complain a lot because I live on aeroplanes. If I'm not happy, I found the biggest and best response. You use Twitter, they come back to you immediately.
Very true.
You look at technology in the music environment. I'm going to moderate the next session.
Yes.
Musicians today are able to make far more money by virtue of the digital revolution, because it's a digital distribution. It takes you everywhere in the world. It's not limited to a few decision makers that are sitting in South Africa who don't like you because of the color of your skin or because you're a woman or whatever the case may be. So there's many. I could give you many.
Professor Mtoba, I love the optimism, and your presentation has really set us up for wonderful conversation that you're going to moderate in a moment or two. I think the concern and the depression comes from the fact that just yesterday we had a conversation that highlighted that in order to create employment opportunities in South Africa, number one, we need economic growth. We need to go back to reforms, 2 very big levers that we need to pull. But the understanding is that South Africa has a very labor-intensive workforce that through the use of these digital tools might find themselves out of employment.
Well, we're talking today.
Yes, sir.
The future of work talks tomorrow. So first, you got to do things today. You see, that's the other thing with life. A lot of people I meet all over the world, even in relationships, they don't talk about how to be happy today. They talk about how to be happy someday. But if you don't fix today together, we say, hey, let's work on these things today. It's labor intensive today, but how do we make sure it's okay tomorrow? How do we get people to transition from one platform to the other? How do we get education systems to do skills, knowledge transfer immediately? How do we get people to be enthusiastic?
Yes.
How do we get attitudinal change? How do we get women to lead, as the lady before me was saying? Why is it that women are still in supportive roles to men?
Precisely.
Right? I mean, are we going to be depressed because somebody sitting somewhere is not doing what they should be doing? And why are we not speaking up? Why are we allowing people in authority to decide for us? They're not leaders. Time is up, I'm told.
Indeed. Time is up, but
And that
I'm
changed
certainly
by
looking
2%.
forward to that question. Changed by 2%, so at least it tells us something, right? With these conversations, slowly but surely we're able to shift the barometer.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to the conversation that you're going to moderate, and thank you so much for the wonderful
Thank you very much for
presentation.
the opportunity.
The one key
Thank you.
takeaway we all need to implement and bear in mind is that we need to learn to learn. Professor Mtoba, don't go too far
I
away,
mustn't go
sir.
too far. I'm
Yes,
just going
sir.
to get
You're
my
going to
stuff.
have a seat. Your panelists are going to
I want
join
to
you.
make sure I'm ready to moderate.
Fantastic.
Different tools.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Devices and toys.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
Thanks a lot.
As Professor Mtoba makes his way off stage, you will be given the opportunity to navigate through the various breakaway sessions that will be taking place at the moment. And this really gives you the opportunity to engage, to distill the information that's been shared and interrogate some of the solutions that perhaps need to be brought to the fore and to the table. So we want to strongly encourage you to find your way to the relevant sessions that you'd like to participate in, and most importantly, share your ongoing feedback in the form of the chats as well as the Q&A sessions. Lots for us to discuss, and I think in terms of building up from the conversations we've heard, it's not only about social inclusion, getting women involved, but also, as Professor Mtoba has highlighted, it's about creating a learning culture, and that's perhaps where we all need to start with these conversations and breakaway sessions today. Briefly again, I see the results coming up on screen. So slight influence there. Which breakout sessions will you be attending? And we're keen to hear what your thoughts are. We've got tech tools for development. We've got is technology deepening our social divide, and how tech can enhance monitoring, evaluation and learning. Looks like the large majority of you going to participate in the last conversation, how technology can enhance monitoring and evaluation. And of course, we also have additional conversations available. But we want to encourage you to make your way to the respective breakaway sessions that will be moderated respectively by Professor Mthunzi Mdwaba. That's a session on technology, deepening our social divide. And if that is the case, the other breakaway session we have is how technology tools can be used for development. That will be moderated by Ruan Govinda, as well as our final session, how technology can enhance monitoring, evaluation and learning. That will be moderated by Zuleika Bray from Trilog. So get ready, participate and engage as you make your way to the respective breakaway sessions.